Welcome to Chamber Talk with North Orange County Chamber. I'm Andrew Gregson, and our guest today is Scott Dowds from Farmers and Merchants Bank. Welcome, Scott.
Thank you, Andrew. Great to be here.
Just a quick download of who Scott is. If you don't actually know, Scott's a dedicated professional with the impressive tenure of over 3 decades at Farmers and Merchants Bank, Long Beach, California. He holds an esteemed position of the Senior Vice President and Regional Manager overseeing the offices of Fullerton, Orange and Garden Grove. He's also recognized as a prominent figure in North Orange County. Scott has made many notable contributions, and he's also the former president of the Fullerton Rotary Board of Directors. He's also the past chair of Fullerton Chamber of Commerce, now North Orange County Chamber. His commitment to the community involvement is evident through his directorship roles in things like Eastside Christian Schools and Fullerton Boys and Girls Club. In recognition of their outstanding contributions, both Scott and his wife Jane were honoured with the prestigious award of 2013 Man and Woman of the Year award by the YWCA of North Orange County. That's quite a lot, Scott. I know you're on many other boards and things, and why not share a little bit about that experience?
Oh wow, it's been a long journey. 30 years. I think I started one of the first things I ever was involved in here was the Area PAC 2 committee for the city of Fullerton here, and we were looking at helping and give guidance on redevelopment. That committee no longer exists though, as times have moved on and redevelopment's changed, but I've been on boards from the YMCA. I've been on the Boys and Girls Club board. Have helped out with different campaigns when the YMCA build-out was taking place. Was involved with the chair on that building campaign as well. But currently, I'm working with the Los Hombres Buenos group. I'm president of that group, which is the foundation arm of the Boys and Girls Club here in Fullerton. We oversee about $1.4 million that provides interest income to help subsidize the operations of the club. And then we're obviously still working with Fullerton Rotary, which is a real passion of mine as a past president. And we actually have 24 awards going out to students for Outstanding Student Awards at graduation a week from tomorrow. So we have 5 Rotarians showing up to those graduations to deliver those awards, which are some of the highlights of those graduations. That's
totally amazing. And what got you first started sort of doing so much in the community of Fullerton, Scott?
Pretty much just service above self. You know, it's scripturally we're supposed to give more than we receive, right? So that's a passion that we've had taught from in our family from early days. So, when you get involved in a community, part of reaching out to the community is you need to know who you're serving as a bank. So in getting to know the community, then those opportunities come up to serve, and you want to get involved anywhere you can to help better the community. And, of course, the blessing is that, you receive so much in the fellowship with those people, and in turn, it just turns out the bank ends up prospering as well.
I'm glad you just mentioned the bank, because that it's a big part of your life, isn't it? That's 30-odd years, right? So can you share a little bit about the banking industry, how you first got into that, what makes it so, appealing to you?
Well, one of the questions we talked about that may come up was, what are some of the challenges that I might have faced in my career and how I overcame them. Originally, I was involved in a family business, had taken it over in my late 20s when my father had a stroke, and was involved in taking that national. But in the course of that, we had an opportunity to sell and cash him out and help him to retire and do all the things he needed to do, which we did. And I was lined up for a great international marketing job from that point, was really looking forward to it, and was rear-ended by an 18-wheeler the next week after we closed the sale, and was trying to recover from that, and then got hit broadside the week after that by another truck in the other family car. So both cars were totaled, and I was in neck traction, lost my job opportunity, was unemployed, and was really, it was a challenge for my faith, I'll tell you. You're kind of wondering, okay, Lord, what's going on here? What's going on right now,
What have I done wrong?
Did I say something to make you mad? And through the course of that, I had a lot of prayer through our pastor, Pastor Chuck, and we worked through that. And came that I started out in small market radio. I thought, well, I've always wanted to be in radio. Went to the Inland Empire, was selling airtime there, doing voiceover work, and that just really wasn't going anywhere, and went to a Rose Bowl game with a good friend of mine and ran into a banker from Security Pacific Bank who overheard our conversation, heard I was looking for a job, what my background was, asked me to come meet with him, and I've been in banking ever since, and that was in 1986.
Wow, that is a story and a half, that.
Yeah.
I'm assuming the accidents weren't necessarily your fault, so you're a good driver. Is that?
I like to think so.
So over the 30 years of Farmers and Merchants Bank, obviously you've seen a lot. How have banks really evolved over the years that you think that are sort of like, like the mobile phone was new? What sort of main things do you think banks have done?
Well, obviously technology has changed banking tremendously. And, when you look at the changes that online banking brought, the internet was created in 1994. So you look at what's happened since the creation of the internet, online banking, accessibility. One of the primary things that makes a bank a desirable choice, right, is convenience. And the more convenience the banks can provide, the better. I've got a daughter who is a devout fan of Farmers and Merchants Bank and has never set foot in a branch.
Wow.
Right, so she has done everything she has done through online banking or over the phone with her representative. She knows all the people at her bank because we answer the phone at Farmers and Merchants Bank, right?
Yes, you do.
But at the same time, she's never had the need to actually go physically into a branch.
So that leads on to a really great question, because I was also, I like to try and find some things that are interesting online about topics when people come on the show. And one of them was, I was looking at the most Google types of things. And under the features about, looking at banking, one of the main questions that come up is when somebody's looking to bank, and I know you can bank personally or with business, but obviously the Chamber's more about business, so please keep that in mind in your answer. What sort of features would somebody want to consider when they're looking at which bank they should maybe bank with?
Well, especially today, you're looking for safety and soundness, right, along with service. So you're looking at banks that are not troubled by bad loan portfolios, whose bond portfolios are weak or are suffering from significant losses. They're not overextended. They're well capitalized.
And how would somebody sort of, apart from actually literally maybe walking into the branch, how do people find out about that information? Because it's not just there, is it? What are we looking for if you're, like you say, you want to stay with a secure bank, one that knows what it's doing, been in the industry for a long time? What do people want to be looking at?
Well, if you're a depositor that has less than $250,000, right, your deposits are FDIC insured.
Mm-hmm.
If you're above that, then you're probably looking into those safety and soundness questions, and you're asking those questions anyway.
Right. That's true.
In that regard. But for the most part, I think most people today aren't, even with the questions going on in the banking crisis, and I call it a crisis only because the press calls it that.
Yeah, of course.
From our standpoint, where we look at it as being in competition with the Treasury Department.
Right.
If they get out of that business, we wouldn't see any issues with capital probably anywhere.
No.
But for the most part, I think people are mostly looking for service.
Right.
That at the end of the day, is someone answering the phone? Do they have? No one ever calls their bank to tell them they're doing a great job.
Right.
Right. Someone calls their bank when they have a problem,
That's
or
true.
they have a question or a concern.
Yeah.
So we're there to answer the phone and make sure that we can get those addressed, and we have people that they know, that they see when they come in. And the tenure in our bank is substantially high. Our average tenure in senior management is over 20 years.
I must admit that is something that's very apparent when you walk into your bank, because, I'll be honest, let's call it what it is. The Chamber does bank with Farmers and Merchants Bank.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. One of the main things that you see is that, yes, the staff do know the people who come in. And sometimes I can be in there and, it's on a Friday afternoon. There's a lot of people trying to get the banking in.
Sure.
And they all know who they are. That's not an easy thing to do. How do you, as a corporation, sort of keep that alive? Because that is not an easy customer service type of thing to keep up.
We're a 116-year-old bank founded on the principles of integrity and service. Honesty, integrity, and service. That was from our father, C.J. Walker. That came down through Gus, through Ken Walker, and his sons, who are now managing the bank at this time as fourth generation. that's a hallmark of what we do. So service above self is very, very important to the bank.
And how do you feel that, because you do a lot in our community, and it's very easy to rattle off where somebody works and the different boards they are on, and just sort of like miss it. How important is it for you, and how do you think the bank have supported some of the community things that you do in this area?
Wow. I could go on for quite a while about
sure.
that. The bank has just such a strong commitment to the nonprofit community, the religious community, all of those. We kind of, because of our commitment, the word kind of got out, so we had to sort of draw the line. But there isn't a single nonprofit or church or house of worship that banks with us that we don't support in some form or fashion. They've asked. We kind of had to draw the line at those that bank with us because we just can't help everybody. But we do that out of our bottom line. We have a foundation at the bank that, while it's growing, it's not at the point we'd like to see it yet. So a great deal of the contributions that we put out into the community are coming directly off the bottom line of the branch. It's out of the bank's profitability.
And you mentioned to me earlier, thank you for banking with you. And I want to thank Farmers and Merchants for being our sponsor of the Chamber for many, many years, being a member of the Chamber for many years.
The Chamber's important.
It is. And that leads me into, staying on topic of board positions. And obviously, you've also been the board chair and been on the board for many, many years yourself. Could you explain and share with people some of the key incentives or accomplishments that you've seen go on over the years that you've been here in town with the Chamber?
I've watched, I was on the board for 12 years, served as president of the Chamber for that year that I served. And the year that I served, let me just comment about that. In 2001, I had an initiative that I had planned on creating a visitor and tourist bureau during that time, getting an increase in the bed tax for hotels, slight increase that could go directly to the city's budget to help support the operations of a visitor and tourist bureau, to help grow tourism here, to help possibly maybe get someone to then want to sponsor a hotel in the railway train station area, and see what we couldn't do to start connecting ourselves and developing a relationship with visitor and tourist bureaus that were lining up people to go to Disneyland, because if we could avail ourselves of those people who are tourists at Disneyland and bring them up to Fullerton,
right,
and create transportation to do that. So I have big plans for that. It was something I've been working with council members on. And unfortunately, 72 days later, the Twin Towers come down, and that all went to the wayside. But the tenor, planes weren't flying in the sky. Everyone thought the economy was going to crash. Markets stopped. No one really knew what to do. So I spent the next 5 months as president or chairman of the board, basically just encouraging businesses that it's going to be all right. We're America. We're going to come back from this.
Right.
This isn't the end of us. This is just the beginning. We're going to rally together, and we did. It was I was more of a cheerleader for the next 5 months than anything else. All those initiatives, none of them got accomplished, but at the end of the day, in other administrations, if you will, and other boards moving on from that time, we saw, look at where you are now. You're the North Orange County Chamber. You're servicing a huge market compared to just the Fullerton market. And, the initiatives that you guys have in meeting not just the needs of small business, but medium-sized and large business. You're a voice to city governments. You are involved in networking at all levels, and you bring awareness to these companies and help them with issues related to employment initiatives and other things that could be affecting them. So, yeah, the value for the value added for membership is significant in belonging to the Chamber, and we support the Chamber mightily.
Oh, that's awesome. And I believe everything you say there. And it wasn't gone to side, because if you think about it, there's plans right now to build a hotel right across from the train station. Wasn't so far away from it. People are working on bringing folks in from Knutsberry Farm from Warner Park, also Anaheim for Disneyland. So all those things that you were doing back then that you wanted to push forward are now sort of coming in there. One thing I noticed was when you were talking about 9/11 and basically how it affected business, that also almost reminds me, it's very similar to what happened during COVID.
Yes.
If you think about it,
Right.
the things you were just discussing then which is phenomenal, because it means that this shows that this country and the economy, it knows how it can have its downsides, but it just picks itself up, brushes itself off, and moves along.
Yeah, we were on the commercial real estate side as a bank on COVID, and as a bank, we never closed our branches. We never stopped showing up. We were there. We never left our desks. So we were involved in that every day, and we're happy to do so. And we needed to be, because we have, in our bank, we are significantly commercial real estate oriented, and in the crux of that, when you saw so many retail businesses affected, so many commercial businesses affected, we needed to help. We needed to understand, number one, what those effects were, what landlords were doing to modify rents or do delayed rents or abatements or changes in terms or modifications or whatever they were doing to help their tenants get through that time. We needed to respond as well, and we did that.
I heard when the company's president, Henry Walker, was talking at Rotary, in fact, and he was talking about Bitcoin and how he doesn't trust it so much. Are there any significant changes that the bank's looking at in the future as we're progressing forward?
I don't think we're really focused on digital currency or anything of those natures right now. We're focused on meeting the needs of the customers today and what they need as we move forward. Their needs aren't changing. I think digital currency is a ways off.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things that have to happen for that to take place.
So just keeping on the banking theme there, Scott, right now we hear a lot in the media about loans and interest rates and things like that. What's going on with farmers regarding that type of business?
Well, as a bank, we have, I think like everyone, we were a little bit surprised at how fast rates rose. But one of the hallmarks of our leadership is that we have always maintained much higher levels of capital than the Fed require. So as a result, in fact, we have been criticized, even sued by shareholders in the past for holding on to too much cash and wondering why we're not deploying it out to the investors. But like I said earlier, I mean, we're better than really 3 times well-capitalized banks. We have a loan portfolio that, by standards, when we saw, I think a couple of the banks that just recently fell, their loan portfolios were in excess of 100% loan to deposits, where we're operating at about 67% loan to deposits. Our average duration on those loans is probably 5.5 years remaining. And we're at debt coverage ratios on those, which are typically industry standards are maybe in the 125 to 135 area. We're at an average 160, 150 on our debt coverage ratio. So our loan portfolio is very, very strong. We have an allowance coming up for loan losses in this next environment that's below 2%. Which is significantly lower than probably most of our peers. And the good thing about us is that we haven't had to lay anybody off. We're not laying people off. We're not selling assets. We're not doing any of those things.
Good.
In fact, we have seen an increase of about 17% month over month in account openings. We're actually a bank that people come to as a flight for safety because they know we're strong.
And that's a very good feeling, isn't it, for your bankers?
Well, it is, and one of the most telling statistics, it's not really a statistic, but when I joined the bank 30 years ago, we were right at about $1 billion in assets. We're at $12 billion now, $12 billion plus. And in the course of that, we ended up acquiring one small bank that had 3 branches back in the 80s. But other than that, it has been purely through word of mouth. It's been organic deposit growth.
That's amazing, isn't it? That's really, really good. So moving a little bit on to your private side of Scott, because we've heard quite a little bit about business here. My first real question is, obviously, you and your wife, Jane, raised 3 kids, right? And you both pursue full-time careers. How do you balance that personal and professional part of your lives?
Well, fortunately for Jane, she is now retired.
Oh, that's nice.
So, but when she was professional and working at the Long Beach Unified School District, she was very involved there as one of the head counselors in the district. Obviously, with my working with the bank, we had 3 kids. As we were doing that, probably the best way to put it is we kind of taught our kids that you've got 3 legs to the stool and you're trying to balance those. For them, it was academics, athletics, and their church life, right? Their spiritual life. So we wanted them to have those three legs well balanced and everything working well. When one of the kids got one of those out of whack, either the academics, they were having a meltdown, or something was wrong, or they felt they were under attack, or whatever was going on, the family, as a rule, we would rally. We'd rally around whichever family member it was, and we would have what was called a perfect day. Mm-hmm. Perfect day was we'd get the kids up in the morning, we'd pack them up, and we'd drive right by the school and keep on going to Disneyland for a perfect day at Disneyland.
Oh, that's awesome.
Right.
What a lovely thing to do. Now, we talked quite a lot about different organizations that both of you have been a part of. Could you share with us some of the causes or organizations that particularly are close to your hearts?
Well, one that wasn't a nonprofit per se that I was serving, but probably one of the most rewarding things that I've ever done was the 12 years of coaching youth sports. Really enjoyed that, the time with the kids, both the girls in soccer and softball, Trevor in soccer and baseball. It's wonderful, wonderful time with those kids. They're just so honest and so real, and it's very rewarding. And you get a chance to pour into them. And a lot of these kids come from different backgrounds and have different challenges in their life. And if you can give them a little love and support, it's a good thing.
And do you guys have any future plans? Are you going to emigrate to, I don't know, Sri Lanka or Costa Rica for your lives, or what are you?
No, I think we're going to stay right here. We've got a daughter in Germany whose husband is a lieutenant colonel who's going to be coming back from Niger on deployment here in June. So we're hopefully going to come out and see them in Germany in September. But beyond that, we're just sort of going to play it by ear. We have no major plans, no ultimate retirement plans.
Well, there's nothing wrong with that either, is there? So over your course of your career, you've likely encountered various different challenges and obstacles, and also in your personal life. Is there anything that reminds you or stays significant in your mind that maybe changes your course of direction, or maybe your mind thoughts sometimes?
I told you about the what happened in my earlier career when we sold the family business.
Right.
That was a real significant moment in time for me, because it really taught me that if you're just focused, you persevere hard, you keep it in prayer, you do the things you need to do, and you don't quit, you're going to overcome. I think that was one of the more significant lessons I learned there. On a personal level and professional level, those are probably the most significant times for me. I've watched a number of staff members that I've had that I've worked with in the branch system for 30 years now. Some of those have grandkids, right, that were single young tellers when they started, and watching their families grow and having a chance to be around them. I'm still in touch with a number of them and have a chance to share and, be involved in their lives and be a support when need be.
One thing that I really admire about companies and corporations like your bank, and also the community, is that they've kept that community spirit alive. What I feel has sort of missed a little bit, and we're trying to capture this in the chamber as well, is that sense of community is sort of faded off. When you look at America, I used to be amazed watching the movies that, on Sundays they'd barbecue, or
right.
there'd be these parades, and the families would line up and they'd watch the parades, and they all knew each other, and everyone, if you lost a job, somebody in your street probably knew how you could get a job. And we've sort of moved away from that. And I think that was what was great about the United States. And that's what I see when I walk into your bank, that they bring this community back in, that
right.
How people in the area, the more people I meet throughout all our region, is they really care about the community.
Yeah, I think it's much more of a conscious choice now to, especially for younger people, to engage in activities where you're face-to-face, where you're in the same room, you're connecting at more than just a social media level.
It's okay. It's all right. My fault.
Must have been social media saying they didn't like the sound of that. Okay. Yeah. Right. So, yeah, it's, social media has made it so much easier for everyone to not have to engage. I can do it remotely. And remotely doesn't encourage and foster that sense of community. Mm-hmm. And I think that's a concern.
I agree. I totally do agree. As we near an end to our little episode here, I'd like to give you the opportunity to share something you might have missed, or any highlights, or anything else really on your mind.
I'd like to, first of all, thank anybody that's listening for banking with Farmers and Merchants Bank. If you do, I would want you to know that the Walker family truly appreciates you, and you're the reason that we're here. That first and foremost. Second of all, I'd really like to put a plug out to the Chamber, because the Chamber provides such a vital function in the communities that it serves. And in North Orange County, the North Orange County Chamber is vital. It's impactful, and it's helping businesses of all sizes. And I would want to encourage anyone who's listening, not just for continued support, but you need to be telling your other business associates they should be involved as well.
Oh, that's very kind, Scott. Thank you very much. That's a great ending to the show. For those who've tuned in, thank you very much for listening, and we hope you'll visit nocchamber.com and select Sign Up for News at the top of the page to join our mailing list. For more interviews, visit chambertalk.podbean.com.